All right, so my name is Peter Chalman. My topic is mixed martial arts as an international sport. So, to begin with, sports have historically acted as a benchmark for national identity. Ever since ancient Greece, with the Olympics, competition between separate regions has been an important way of connecting them. Uh, just the very act of competition is a universal human trait. Every culture has some sort of sport or some sort of competitive drive, and sports are designed to hone that in and be used to kind of see who's the best. So, and the sport can be a very effective medium of non-lingual communication. Just looking at the Olympics or the FIFA World Cup, uh, it's clear that there is some sort of communication going on, even though these people don't know each other's language and live on opposite sides of the world. Uh, so it is very effective in bringing cultures together, even without actually verbally communicating. And it is vital to many nations' economies. If you look at how the Olympic Games uh, can affect the amount of money a country makes on tourism or just on being viewed as the country that the Olympic Games are being held. For example, in 1964, the Tokyo Olympics was extremely important in revitalizing the Japanese economy post-war. Um, and if you look at the amount of revenue generated by the Super Bowl every year, it's clear that it has massive impacts on the economy. So MMA officially began on November 12th, 1993, in a pay-per-view event dubbed the Ultimate Fighting Championship. It was a tournament-style uh, um, pay-per-view that was designed to determine which martial art was superior. Um, but there weren't very many rules that they had. There was groin strikes. You could pull hair. You could gouge at the opponent. So it led to an extreme kind of uh, pushback from a lot of the public, deeming it a blood sport, and there was a lot of people trying to make it illegal. There's a famous letter from John McCain trying to ban it, or trying to convince people to ban it, and a lot of countries did ban it, but luckily the U.S. did not ban it, and the UFC continued to hold events over the next few years, and as it kind of gained recognition as a sport, the popularity increased. Uh, they were holding more and more events each year, and then other organizations started to pop up for professional fighting all around the world. There was Pride FC in Japan. There is still currently one championship in China. There used to be WEC Strike Force that the UFC actually absorbed as the UFC gained kind of financial power. And then there's Bellator. All of these are professional fighting organizations, but the UFC has cemented itself as the dominant one, and that's the one we're kind of going to focus on today because it's the most influential on the international scale. So MMA is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. If you look at the amount of events and the amount of money it brings in now compared to 15 years ago, it's insane how fast it's grown. Uh, and it's quickly becoming very mainstream. Uh, Despite people calling it a blood sport, it's found success in the general public knowledge with superstars like Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, and it's surpassed boxing in terms of mainstream consistent viewership. If you look at the most bought pay-per-views of all time of any sport, Khabib versus McGregor is the number 3 on that list. It's only behind McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. And if you look at the top 10, the UFC has 3 events in the top 10 most bought pay-per-views, um, while 11 years ago, they didn't have any. So that goes to show how much it's grown just in the past decade with not having any to having 3 now. So it will only get bigger. Uh, the growth is due in part to the adoption of unified rules, where in order to kind of please the people that were saying that the lack of rules were disgusting and made it brutal to watch, now it's just like any sport. It has official rules that are enforced that are designed to help protect the fighters and also to make it able to like an actual sport be like scored. Uh, so it's slowly began to shed its image as a blood sport, and it's becoming just as respected as boxing now. UFC ownership, uh, their international marketing is very effective, and they've been able to create new markets all around the world using the new talent that they pick up. Like in China, Zhang Weili, who Forbes named one of the top 50 most influential sports stars in the world right now because of how much pull she has in the Chinese market to create uh, profit from there. Uh, and if you just look at how many champions there are from around the world now, there's champions from Russia and China, Australia, Nigeria, America, Poland, Kyrgyzstan. It's well, opposed to 15 years ago, where it was almost exclusively Brazilians and Americans with one Russian. So it's clearly become it's permeated almost every country in the world. The UFC program has now reached 1.1 billion households in 168 countries. Its global fan base has reached 278 million. Its revenue in 2019 alone has reached approximately a billion, 980 million to 1.1 billion. And it's valued at $7 billion after the ESPN trade deal that happened in 2019. There's a lot of places around the world that has brought economic improvement to, as well as prestige. The one I'm going to focus on is Dagestan, because Dagestan historically has been kind of a place where there's been a lot of Muslim extremism. But now, with Habib, who's from Dagestan, and his father, they've kind of cemented Dagestan in as one of like the most respected places that fighters come from, and like the fight culture there has become very influential to the Dagestan youth. And you see there's less extremism now, and there's more tourism there. It's slowly improving, and that in a large part is due to Habib and MMA in general. The future of MMA, you can only expect it to grow. I mean, the past 10 years, it's grown so much that it'll only get bigger. Recently, there's been a huge push from the International Mixed Martial Art Federation to ensure that MMA is put into the Olympics. They have a plan to get it there by 2032. We'll see, but I think that eventually it definitely will, and that will further cement it as a true international sport and a way for countries to kind of bring themselves together and compete against each other. So that's just my works cited. Thanks a lot, guys.